Hi everyone, as promised, I'm giving you my story of domestic violence. Thank God he was able to bring me out alive as well as my unborn child. I was reconnected with an old childhood friend. He always wanted to be girlfriend and boyfriend, even when we were little kids, and I didn't know anything about being a girlfriend. And he was just so persistent. And in our late 20s, we reconnected. And I thought that he was that same kid that I kind of liked a little bit when we were about 10 or 11. But boy, did I find out that he was nothing like the little guy that I remember. Prior to us reconnecting, he had spent time in jail. Didn't know that because we weren't really dating. We would just see each other here and there. And rapidly, it started to grow fast and progress into a relationship. Something that I didn't want because I had recently just gotten out of a long-term relationship after about to get married and then no longer do that. So I just wanted to get my options and just live for me for once. And unbeknownst to me, I mean, it was like a whirlwind. I think he was so persistent because he knew what he wanted, and that was to have full control and had his reign over me. And it really still boggles me that I thought that, okay, I'm this woman who's independent. I have a great job. I have my own place. And I was doing my own thing. And then how did I get caught up into this? But it was the way he kind of maneuvered into my life. Um, Ladies, don't tell too much information from your previous relationship because that could be used against you for the worst instead of for your good. Be transparent sometimes. Don't always divulge too much of personal information about a prior relationship to a new guy that you're just meeting because they're absorbing all of that information, and at the wrong time they'll bring it right back up in your face. And I did tell him that I didn't want to get into a relationship and I wasn't ready to be into something. But because he was so persistent and because he wanted to have control and that power, I didn't see all those signs. And he would just constantly like meet me at the train or constantly say, "Oh, I'm going to meet you at your family's house." So he was always around, even when I wasn't even expecting it. And it kind of caught me by surprise. But then I was so unsuspecting. So I was like, "Oh, I guess it's kind of cute," because I wasn't used to that. But that's a warning sign, ladies. So also understand that if it's a constant, he always has to get in contact with you, always know where you are, what you're doing, who you talking to, who you with. They are signs. They are red flags. And that went on for a couple of months. Even still, while I said, "Look, I just got out of a relationship. I'm not sure this is what I want." However, we would go out. I mean, he just woo me and dine, wine, and all that good stuff until I finally gave in. And that's just something that's their kill because if they know that you just came out of a relationship, you are vulnerable. And that's something that they definitely look for. And that's an opportunity for them to come in and just take over. And that's exactly what he did. And we dated for about a year and a half. He was locked up. When he came home, he came to stay with me. And that's when all hell broke loose. My life was like a living hell because we really did not date long enough for me to have him move in and for us to be this ready made family. Um, and I let him move in, wound up getting pregnant, did not want to abort my baby because that's what he wanted. And I said, I'm going to do this alone. I had already had a 5-year old child from the previous relationship. So I moved him in with us, and it just went bad downhill from there. Just controlling, very aggressive in the beginning, always wanted my attention. I couldn't go any place, but he could. He would stay out nights, and I'm calling worried, thinking that something happened to him, but he was just laid up. And I mean, that's just how that relationship went. And eventually, I told him that he had to go, and I deserve better than that. And when I said that, I got a punch across the face. And the only thing I can remember is me sliding down the wall. That's all I remember. So apparently I must have been unconscious or whatever. But when I told him that I was pregnant, um, he didn't care. The abuse just gotten intensified. Actually, it was just a everyday thing, and I tried so hard not to be in his way when he came home from work, when he did work. Um, and I just try to, my daughter and I just, get out the way in my own home. And that's what made me so angry at myself. But I felt like, now, how do I get out of this? And I felt like there was no way out. And I confided into, to one of my cousins, and she said, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to get out of this? This is something that you don't need for you and your daughter. And now you're pregnant. So, how are you going to make it? And all of these things came into play. Well, the very next time I'm going about 2 years in at this moment, and let him know that, again, it's time for me to leave now, because I just knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere positive. And again, I was choked at that moment. And the only thing I can remember, I know that I heard like neighbors over me, and they were getting my daughter, because apparently he must have ran out. We were in an apartment complex, and our neighbors that were across the hall from us heard all the commotion, and I think they were fighting him to get him off of me. Um, and I wound up in the hospital. And at that moment, they were telling me that I was in labor. And of course, it was premature labor. I was 5.5 months pregnant with my baby. And they told me if I was to have this baby, that it wouldn't make it, and it would be definitely detrimental to me, with my health, because of the state that I came in. I had choke marks, and um, like my pressure was up. I was just in bad shape at that moment. And I was worried so much about my 5-year old at the time and my unborn child outside of me, that I went in mommy mode, and I was like, oh no, because I'm not going to have this baby if I know that it's going to die. Like, Lord, help me. So I got on my knees in the dirty hospital room that I was sat in, waiting for the doctors to come and tell me that they were going to induce my labor. And I got on the floor and I prayed to God. And when I tell you that I prayed like I've never prayed before in my life. And I asked God to allow me to get the strength, because I could no longer go through these issues. And this is just not the life that I want for myself, especially for my children. And I asked God to give me that strength to get up out of this situation. And if He does, I will try my hardest all the rest of my life after that to help other women that are just like me in a domestic violence situation. And moments later, I was so hurt and bruised and sore from the beating. But it felt like after I said that prayer, I didn't feel any more pain. The contractions had stopped, and I was just waiting for someone to bring my daughter in the room with me. And I sat on the bed and the doctor said, "You don't have to take this. You can get out if you want." And he said, "I'm going to pray with you." I never had a doctor show concern, one, and then two, be able to tell me that you have options. No one told me I had an option. And that's when I got up and I said, "You know what? He is so right. You do not deserve this. You need to go on with your life without him. Raising children on your own, it's okay." And God is my witness. I am so glad that now, in hindsight, that I am out of that. I am now able to help women just like I am, who were at that moment, to get themselves back on track, learning the signs of domestic violence, being able to be self sufficient after being in that situation, and then don't go back. So, we teach parenting and life skills and financial literacy classes and anger management and art therapy, learning how to deal with the issues that you've already been in, and helping your children go through it, because our children are our future. And if they see that beating a woman is okay because we have no other option but to stay in that at that moment, and if they see that, they think that that's normal, and it's not. So we work with the family as a unit, not just the mother, but her children as well as the other family members who have to help you get through this ordeal. I mean, it's tough. It's so tough for you to have to go through it alone. And we're here. The Women's Solo Project is specifically designed to help women who are in abusive situations get out and live, because that's all we want. We want you to live. And I thank God for the opportunity for Him to have taken me through that route. So now I know firsthand how to work with other women and their children, as well as family members, to get them situated and sustainable outside of domestic violence. And that's my story. And thank you for allowing me to share. And if you have any questions, you can go to the Women's Solo Project.org. That's the women's with an S, solo, two S's, project.org. Thank you so much. Take care.